Thank you all. Thank you all. Well, I've been reminded this morning that we started this event in the Senate several years ago. I was able to be part of that first event and glad to be here with all of you. I'm also going to learn today, as I already have from Ambassador Ginsburg, and General Jones and I have appeared at several of these together, and I always benefit from his insight, Ambassador Bloomfield as well, and I'm glad to be with you. Somehow, Iran and freedom for Iran always seems to be very relevant in the news all the time, and is again. I will say when I came to the Senate 14 years ago, I was already very engaged, as all Americans were at the time, in what was happening in Iran. The first time I ran for statewide office in Missouri was 1980, and the hostages were being held. I introduced President Reagan under the arch in the last event we had in our state, which at that time was still one of the ultimate bellwether states, very competitive, very much part of that. So I came to the Congress with all of that in mind. But when I came to the Senate, it was only when I came to the Senate that the challenge of what was happening at Camp Liberty seemed to me such an important thing that we had to embrace it. We had guaranteed safety. We'd made a number of commitments to people who were in Camp Liberty, and those commitments were not being met. The United States of America keeps its word, and in this case, we were committed to keep our word, and I was committed to be part of that. Others here today, and there'll be members who come, staff who came. Senator Shaheen's always been interested in these issues, as have Senator Tillis and Senator Booker and Senator Cardin, who just left the Senate this year. He and I always worked on these issues together. There's always been broad support for what needs to happen here, but many of us joined together to try to find a place where Ashraf would be safe. We're going to have some discussion today, and it's in the country, about could Albania do a better job? Well, they probably could, but I will say this. When Albania stepped up, nobody else was stepping up. I visited with country after country, as many of you did, and none of those doors were willing to be open. And one of the things we ought to remember whenever we look at some of the things that this group stands for is the impact they have on others who are enemies of these ideas of freedom and Kurdish autonomy, as an example. One of the 10 points in the plan that's out there. But Albania, as it turned out, was willing to help. They didn't know quite how to help. In fact, I told the Albanians, if you welcome these freedom fighters at Camp Ashraf to Albania, I'll come to Albania and I'll see them there. And they did, and I did. So we took a congressional delegation to Albania. We went to Ashraf 2 and immediately began to argue and work for Ashraf 3. So this is a good start. We are glad that these people have more safety than they had where they were before, but they need more space. We don't want a permanent situation, but we want a situation that meets the needs of these freedom fighters until they can go home. And, we got that bigger location for Ashraf 3. The Albanians have done many things, and in some cases, obviously, have not been able or not been willing to do all the things that we would like for them to do. But again, I met with their president 3 times. I met with many of their government leaders here and in Albania. And in my heart and my mind, they were willing to step up when nobody else was. And they've had great pressure because of stepping up. We're not here today to honor Albania. We're here to honor the freedom fighters that they honored. But I wanted to say that at the same time. That bigger location is not everything it would hope to be, because everything it would hope to be would be back home in Iran, of course. And of course, without failure, the number one sponsor of state terrorism in the world will push back wherever ideas different than the theocracy that that government represents are advocated, whether it's in Paris or Albania, whether it's a continent away or the country next door. You can count on these advocates of terrorism to continue to advocate for the terror tactics that they are so committed to. The people at Ashraf stand for resistance, they stand for democracy, and that's important. But what's even more important is what we can do to encourage protest in Iran. For Iran to have the kind of freedom that Iran needs to have, the only place that can really start is Iran. And the inspiration of people who've been in prison, people who've been tortured, people whose families have been threatened, but are still out there talking about freedom, is an important inspiration, but it's an inspiration that needs to move people in Iran to seek freedom for their country, in their country. You know, we have an ancient civilization, one of the oldest, most storied civilizations in history, if not the oldest, and a young population. Two-thirds of the people in Iran are under 40, which of course means two-thirds of the people don't remember a government that wasn't the government they have today. Two-thirds of the people don't remember a government where theocracy They don't remember a government where the black market was more important than the free economic market. This is a young country. It is a smart country. It is an educated population. And they are every day demanding more and more of what they should have and the country that they should have. It's a place where repression needs to be replaced by religious freedom. It's a country where discrimination needs to be replaced by gender equity. It's a place where the black market needs to be replaced by a real marketplace that people can thrive and prosper in and understand they're going to be treated fairly. You know, for almost 4 decades now, Iran has been the #1 state sponsor of terrorism. It didn't take very many years, certainly well over 3 decades, almost 4 decades. Iran has not only been focused on repressing people internally, but also on what it took to repress people externally. It's, frankly, in my view, reached a low point in its influence right now. The Houthis in Yemen are still a threat and encouraged by the Iranians, but President Trump has made an absolute determination that the Houthis, encouraged by the Iranians, cannot disrupt world commerce day after day after day. And I hope we're committed to stop that, and it appears to me that we are. Obviously, Hezbollah in Lebanon is not what it was 6 months ago. Hamas in Gaza is not what it was 12 months ago. Assad, thank goodness, no longer in charge of Syria. Doesn't mean Syria couldn't become a very dangerous place, but it does mean this strong ally of Iran is not there any longer. It's a time, I think, of time for maximum pressure from the United States and others to insist that things can't continue to be what they are. So 4 decades, the number one state sponsor of terrorism, 2 decades now, this threat of a nuclear armed Iran has really hung over the country. And frankly, it was the National Council of Resistance in August 2002 that helped expose what was going on in terms of an effort to move toward a nuclear-armed nation. President Trump says that a nuclear Iran cannot be allowed, and of course that's right. The Iranians argue about, just in the paper today, well, the president says we're meeting directly with the Americans, but we're really not, and we're only going to talk through third parties, and we're going to drag this out as long as we possibly can while we're doing everything we can possibly get away with. There's certainly nothing new here. This is the exact tactics that have allowed Iran to get, if you read the papers every day, within weeks of having the fissile material it would take to go ahead and move toward having a weapon, and that cannot be allowed. The president is accurate there. The Prime Minister of Israel is accurate there. Anybody who's on the side that that can't be allowed is in the right place. Their air defenses, the Iranian air defenses, at this moment are almost non-existent. They've never been more vulnerable, and it's time that we did what we needed to do to take advantage of that vulnerability and move them back from where they are. Let me also say, though, that I'd say to our leaders and our negotiators, we shouldn't use the willingness, maybe the fact that there may not be many alternatives for them, I hope, because they are weakened right now, to say, okay, we won't have nuclear weapons, but we want to have everything else just the way it is. You know, the people of North Korea, because of a nuclear-armed North Korea, have been captives of that government for decades now, captives of the family for more than decades, captive of the government for decades. But what we can't do, in my view, is say to the Iranians, you continue to have whatever kind of government you want to have in Iran, just don't have a nuclear weapon, and we'll open the economic doors of the world to trade and let your economy function again. That would be a mistake. It's a mistake we shouldn't make. We should not let them have nuclear weapons, but we shouldn't let them, what I believe is very little choice right now, to not move forward with nuclear weapons, become a reason to continue to do anything they want to do. The people of Iran should not come under the thumb of that current government because we've decided that that's easier for us than just doing what we need to do to continue to move toward freedom. Democracy begins with free elections. The 10 points that have been presented by Mrs. Rajavi and have widely supported in a bipartisan way by this Congress, by the U.S. Congress, are the kinds of points that would make sense for this government to look at the future. If you look down at those 10 points, and I'm sure they're available to all of you, and I'm not going to go through them all, but the rejection of clerical rule, freedom of speech, freedom of political parties, freedom of assembly, freedom of press, freedom of the internet, commitment to individual and social freedoms, separation of religion and state, complete gender equality in the realm of political, social, cultural, and economic activity, an independent judiciary, autonomy, justice and equal opportunities for people whose families have been persecuted and have had great loss because of that, protection and rehabilitation of the environment, a non-nuclear Iran also devoid of weapons of mass destruction. There's a reason that these principles are supported. They would hopefully be the principles that a free, independent Iran would be able to move forward with. But that starts with democracy. It starts with choice. It starts right now with the countries of the world looking at this #1 state sponsor of terrorism and saying this will not be allowed to continue. Thank you for letting me be with you today.